What I'd like to do is call out the names of the people in the order in which they filled out the cards so that anyone who wants to speak or ask a question, if you haven't filled out a card, Gail Hines has some more. I'd like to turn the floor over now, and I ask you all to be brief in the interest of everybody else who wants to be heard. Magdalena Pietrek.
My last name is Pietrzak. Okay. I have a question. On the report from the last meeting on the plan you had, it says for the regional aquifer, you only had that mentioned. What about the shallow aquifer, this one? How deep is it, and what's the contamination on that?
Okay, we talked about the regional aquifer. Okay, is deep. Okay, the shallow aquifer here is roughly about 5 feet down, 5 to 6 feet down. Regional is probably 20, 25 feet down to regional in this area. In this area. Okay.
Does it go to the bedrock?
She's not.
Doesn't go to the bedrock?
No. Okay, thank you.
Nakas of Waterways and Greenviews.
But it seems that you raised a lot more for the presentation. In terms of the cumulative summary chart of recovery, am I to assume from that chart that recovery has been constant over the last 18 months?
Yes.
And there's been no accelerated recovery since May of '97, somewhere around there?
The system operates 24 hours a day.
To accelerate the recovery process, and it looks like it's still constant.
It wasn't just to accelerate, it was also to minimize downtime by optimizing the system. Right? And as those conditions change, we change our wells accordingly, or the system accordingly. So what we did was we minimized the downtime first, so that's probably most important. Instead of having the system down for hours or days or weeks for repairs or adjustments or whatever, now that system is running very consistently, which was part of our goal.
The well that's located at the end of...
Active, OG. Is active. There's no...
The reason why I was out there with friends, we went to light up a cigarette and the guard came running out of the shop. Yeah.
There's no free product in that well.
Well, maybe not in the well, but the outflow pipe. So it comes out of there, I could put drainage fees in my car.
What's that?
That's a very thick green liquid that comes out of that pipe.
No, I don't think so.
It's hard to have photographs of it, and it's out there.
We have an iron removal system in the treatment building that's reduced that significantly.
The only color that was associated was with iron, and it was a rusty color, which is part of the normal.
It's not a rusty color, it's just green.
There's nothing green in the system to be discharged.
So is that not your discharge pipe? Is that somebody else's?
There are a couple discharges there.
Right. One of the things we're trying to do is a little discovery about whose it is.
We have a sign. We have a sign right on our discharge with my name on it and my telephone number. And it's
well, we can't see it from the water.
Okay. Yeah. It's a DEC requirement to have a sign posted on with your outflow.
Concerned citizens. You're up.
Officer from the Coast Guard, and she said that she had been on the creek and the boom was still there and there was still seepage coming into the Newtown Creek. So I don't know how you feel, or your statement says that there is no boom and there is no seepage.
The major progress has been made at the end of Meeker Avenue. There is still a boom. There's a significant boom along Peerless that we've been extending over the past few years. The seepage has seemed to get worse, and we've done substantial subsurface investigations and geophysical work over there to try to figure out what's going on. Once we figured out what's going on, the other issue is getting additional access from Peerless to use their precious property over there. That, you know, they have a lot of trucks going in and out, and it's very important to them that they have access to it all the time. To get access there to clean it up. What you can actually see at the end of Meeker Avenue is where the Coast Guard first put their wells in to do the recovery. There's not too much coming out here anymore. You may get pockets every once in a while depending on the rain and the weather conditions, but there's really a a lot less product coming out than there was in 1978 and even as late as 1996. So that's the area we're talking about, Irene.
This is just recently that she was there, and so that's why I'm questioning the fact that you're saying that there was no boom, or there is no boom.
No, the booms is the boom. There have been no removal of any booms. You know, but the recovery effort, the hardest part of doing any recovery out in Greenpoint is getting the oil off Newtown Creek, especially in the middle of winter and weather conditions like this and with the wind howling. The goal of the whole remediation system is to, you know, besides collecting the product that's underneath the whole community, is to stop the oil from seeping out into Newtown Creek. At the end of Meeker Avenue, there seems to be a ray of sunshine looking like it's stopping. And we're focusing our efforts now in additional investigation and remediation into figuring out what's going on behind Peerless.
Another thing, Ms. Kris, for well over 7.5 years, and I was a little disturbed that we didn't have a meeting sooner than this. I understand your position. You've got the entire city to be concerned about. But at the same time, through the consent order, I believe it states clearly that there must be several meetings during the course of the year. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay. Try to be more timely next time. Did you have any other points? No, not right now. How about Vincent Vespel?
To my attention, I'm well aware of the property owner and his enterprising endeavors, to say the least. He presented some problems when we were actually trying to get the recovery system built over there. He changed a lot of the property access and used it as a tool for him. Worked out for his benefit. I will look into the matter. I'm over there pretty often along Houseman Street and Van Dam. And see if there's anything burning. I informed Vincent that if there's something that he feels there's an air issue or there's some kind of smoke there that's not good for somebody, to call the fire department. It's probably the best thing to get the most immediate response, and they could figure out what's going on. Roux Associates over there will also look into the matter to make sure that the man isn't burning anything that's going to damage both the environment and the remediation system, because Wellhouse A is in a prime location. It was a difficult well to site and to sink, and we want to keep it there, and we want to keep it running for as long as possible. Right over here, Irene. Right in the heart of it. It's in your handout.
Steve Adams. You ready?
On Van Dam Street, it's Wellhouse A. Apollo Street.
Hi, I'll make my comments brief. Actually, I just have a comment, and then I have one question. There's actually a few parts to it. This is kind of hard for me, but when I first started coming to these meetings, I was highly critical of Mobil and their cleanup procedures, and I must say that in the years since those first meetings, I've like to applaud Mobil for their efforts in cleaning up a problem that they created, and so it's a good thing that they're cleaning it up, and I congratulate them for that. My questions now are, you, in your report for the community, you say that there was a question regarding the length of time that it may take to clean up the 11 to 13 million gallons of oil, give or take a few gallons, of 20 years. With the cumulative total cleaned up of being almost 6 million gallons, has your estimate of the time that it'll take to clean it up changed in any way, shape, or form?
The remaining gallons is probably about 8 to 10 million gallons is estimated. And we're continuing looking at improving the system, recovering efforts. I still think it's going to take 15 to 20 years is our estimate. Again, it's an estimate. We're trying to improve that.
And as since you've acquired the that small area of Mobil Oil, that land there, is the city and the state going with Mobil going to be cleaning that up before you decide to build on it? And if not, why? And if you are, how long do you anticipate that it's going to take to do that? And if you're going to build on it, again, my question goes, the same question I had a year ago is, what is the danger of while you're building on that area, that there is an accidental explosion? Gasoline, oil, whatever, has still a danger of exploding regardless of how long it's been there. So what I want to know is, what precautions are you taking when you start building on that area, and what have you done to kind of ensure the safety of this community? Thank you. That's pretty much.
I would like to sort of give the state perspective, and then Vinny, if you would cover from the cities. In terms of the remediation at the site, it's Mobil that continues to be responsible for the remediation. However, the city will be doing certain construction activities at the site that will by necessity involve excavation, source removal, disposal of that material. And the short version is they don't do any work at the site without doing health and safety plans that are done by their consultants, just as Mobil has to do. And there will be appropriate monitoring. There will be a health and safety plan ahead of time. And the kinds of issues that you've raised, Steve, are precisely the kinds of issues that the state would look at. We'd bring in state health if necessary, and work with the community to make sure that you're comfortable with what's happening before it happens. And that's sort of the broad answer. And for the specifics, if Vinny DeSantis has something to add, why don't you take over from here?
Well, just in general, I guess the department meets monthly with the monitoring committee, and I guess we've answered most of those questions. However, I can restate them. I'm going to answer your question. As Mary Ellen stated, Mobil is still responsible to operate the well system until such time as we construct. We've met with Mobil at DEC's offices at the site, and we're working closely. We're not interfering with each other's operations. We've successfully removed all the storage tanks and are now working below grade on the foundations. We have approved health and safety plans with DEC, as Mary Ellen mentioned. We constantly monitor both up and downwind for a number of parameters, and hydrocarbons being one of them. We've established risk limits on all the parameters. So we're really on top of everything. We have an inspector walking around every area of work while the work is going on, as well as fixed stations up and downwind. So we're very confident that there's no risk or danger or hazard to the community. Did I cover all your... It's a health and safety plan that identifies what mitigation has to occur if something happens, what levels trigger a response. We've made it available to the committee. I guess you're welcome to come.
Paul Pullo, did I get that?
How you doing? I'm from Metro Terminals. We're located right across the street from the old Mobil plant, which is called the Northern Crude Yard. I just had a question about the plume. Can you turn to that where it's moved, where it seems to have moved from 1990 to now? It seems to have moved. Okay, I guess it's moving prior to the construction. So I guess my question has to do with Mobil and the plume, and also what's going to happen with the construction, if that's going to have any effect, or what's going to protect it. It already looks like it's starting to go across the street, and I'm right across the street from it. What's going to protect? my property from, you know, from getting, we have site wells on our property. Randy Austin has somebody who works for him, Sagona, and we put in some, Anthony Sagona, good guy. We put in some site wells a few years ago. He said he would like them to be there because it would protect us. This way we'd always know if any product was coming. But I just don't want to, I want to keep it from coming. I don't want any. So that's really my concern. Between Mobil's pulling the oil out and the construction that's going to happen, how are we going to be protected from the oil coming to my property? And also the other question was, I was always told that the natural flow of the product is towards the creek. And again, my facility is between the creek and Mobil, so.
And it doesn't flow quickly, you know, that's going to be there tomorrow. But as I mentioned before, if you remember, this inferred layer shows the outside edge of it. And it's very thin. Right at the wall, at monitor well number 12, we have 0.08 inches of product, 0.08. It's much, it's less than, you know.
But how many gallons are there? About how many gallons?
How many gallons are we covering when we're out there?
In that pool.
Well, let me just a couple more. Monitor well number 1 has 0.25 inches, which small amount, again, you know, 3 inches.
How many gallons do you estimate?
On a weekly basis, probably about a gallon and a half.
What is the total gallons of the plume as it exists under the ground today?
This inferred plume here, I don't have an estimate of that, but again, it's a very
600 to
thin
3,000 gallons it was estimated at.
600 gallons.
600 to 3,000 gallons.
600 to 3,000.
Additionally, what's going on is in cooperation with the city, cooperation with the city, DEC, and Mobil. Mobil has proposed installing a recovery trench on that area to accelerate the product removal before the city does any condemnation work, demolition work in that area. Excavation work, I'm sorry. Once that is all finalized and all health and safety plans are meshed and all construction schedules are on the same page, that work will begin and the product recovery should be accelerated. Yeah, Tony. That still has to be worked out as far as health and safety concerns go. It may be an exposed trench, it may be a series of pits that are road plated, it may be a covered gravel-filled trench.
Are there going to be a new front of monitoring wells in that area to track any plume shifting, or is there currently enough to protect that area?
The monitoring wells that are up there, are you talking long-term or short-term?
Long-term.
Long-term, there will have to be additional monitoring wells placed after Kingsland Avenue work has been done, and after the site has been constructed to what it's going to be. There may be additional wells. The other thing that you have to keep in mind, Paul, is that the city will need to dewater the northern crude farm to construct the facilities that they want to put in there. In dewatering, they're going to be pulling all the groundwater onto the site from around other areas. That hasn't been finalized yet on how they're going to do it and how much groundwater they're expecting to pull and what the radius of influence is going to be on that. So we're not expecting that plume to migrate anywhere in the immediate future, and we're hoping to diminish it before the city does do its construction.
Now, how many monitoring wells are currently on the terminal site that DEP is going to use for the plant? How many monitoring wells are on that site right now?
On the terminal site?
On the terminal.
On that little portion up there? There's probably 25 to 30 wells that are still active. DEP also put a lot of wells in for their pump test that are still there but not being used for anything. Most of those wells are going to be torn out and won't be used anymore once the construction gets going.
Are those wells recovering anything today?
Yes, there's a series of recovery wells. If you look closely at your book, you'll see RWs and RSs, and those are still on and active. The city had to make provisions to keep those running up to the very last minute while they're doing their site preparation work.
Now, the excavation is going to take over the work of those monitoring wells by doing the radical removal, or those wells will have to be replaced?
That's still in design and discussion. I can't tell you a definite answer, but the way it looks like, the construction will probably be excavation and removal of most of the problem.
Do you expect if they do that
To the extent that the construction, excavation, or any of that other activity changes the dynamics of, or the hydraulics, whatever it is, of the removal, adjustments will be made. Hopefully for the better, right? So that's one of the things that Mike will be doing on an ongoing basis. As the plume gets smaller or as product is taken out as part of the excavation, we make adjustments. We either, change the pumping rate or the location of the well. So that, your questions are all correct. I think that he probably needs to see what's happening before he can answer the question. You're asking him to predict something that's will be a dynamic situation. But did you have other things for Mike?
Actually, I wanted to know, what is the total amount of gallons in the plume estimated today? When it first started, I'm sorry.
Which plume? Which plume?
How much product was flowing before we started removing it?
Next 69 spilled back in 1990 was 60,000 gallons spilled. If you look at the chart, we've recovered that 60,000 gallons already because of the series of trenches, the sumps we put in with the trenches. As Mike said, we probably have left between 600 and 2,000 gallons the most. It's such a thin layer that's left. It's hard to recover. It's pretty thick. But we recovered, the majority of that original spill.
I got another question. Brooklyn Union Gas was doing some street work. They were moving so that, soil, we know that. But there was nobody from hazmat, there was no, nobody was there.
DEP hazmat? Yeah, there's a DEP hazmat and a DEC spill response. I was there. It didn't look like it didn't look like anything unusual for a city street.
It smelled unusual. It really did. Even my husband said.
Yes, and I've been there. I've been to the future gas station that they're building across the street from the Newtown Creek plant. I stop in anywhere where they had about a gazillion tons of soil piled up, and they're going to put a diesel truck stop or something there. Concord Oil is doing the job. And there's been some very unusual looking soils, and you're going to encounter that all over Greenpoint because a lot of it is waste from the incinerator plant that was put down, waste from the old incinerator plant that was over by Apollo Street that was put down, and fill materials because they wanted to bring the land surface up to build on it. It wasn't anything that I was overly concerned about. I did stop and take a look. And if Brooklyn Union has a problem, there's a lady by the name of Mary Casey over there who's in the environmental end of it, and they usually call me and notify me of any kind of real significant problems. And she wasn't even notified of it.
My problem is that with the last spill, the fire department came down to our area in various places, opened up the sewers, and let the methane gas out. Methane is an explosive factor. Now the question is, with all this thing, with their remediation, with their upgrade, I'm afraid there's a built-in methane factor that you guys are really not checking into. Because if it was strong enough for the fire department to come around a year and a half and open up our sewers to alleviate the methane problem, what's going to be if the fire department is no longer doing that? And when these guys do further remediation, and when these guys do the upgrade of the plant, I'm afraid we're going to in the middle. Thank you.
What spill were you referring to?
The one that was I don't know if it was the last one or the next to the last one, It was either in the late 80s or early 90s. I don't know what, I don't know. But the point of it is, it was the one where it had to do with diffuser oil or user oil. It was the junk oil. It wasn't the gasoline.
What it could be, was this down by North Henry Street?
North Henry, Russell, Monitor, Kingsland, because it was all throughout there. They were opening up all the sewers.
That was a gasoline spill, and that was a spill that occurred from a broken pipeline, I believe it was under Monitor Street. And it traveled over towards North Henry, and there's a sewer over North Henry Street. That was back in '89, I believe.
Well, it was in the late 80s or early 90s, because they did it for a year and a half.
So that's a problem. You're around here long enough to become an historian. That gasoline spill traveled into the sewer. It wasn't methane gas they were flushing out, it was the gasoline vapors they were flushing out of that sewer. Methane gas is typically created by natural means, like swamp gas, or it's a gas created by some kind of...
Rotting garbage.
Right. That's not what they were doing. They were basically flushing out the gasoline vapors so that there was no problems with possible explosive situations. That's a routine thing that the fire department does. But that's not something really directly related to the construction of the sewage treatment plant or the lines in the normal course of events anyway. It happens when you have a gasoline spill, and then you have to do something to flush it out of the line to clear it out, and that's what they did. In addition to flushing the line out, we also had Mobil install some monitoring wells, and they activated some recovery wells that they hadn't needed at that point because there was no gasoline in that area for a while. They reactivated recovery wells, and they recovered the gasoline and cleaned up that problem. But that was not a methane gas problem. That was gasoline, and that was something that we took aggressive action with Mobil to resolve that problem.
So you're saying there is no explosive problem involved with either project?
No, we don't see that as a normal course of events. Basically, if it's an extraordinary situation with a gasoline spill, then we have a problem. The Mobil terminal, as you know, has been closed for several years. Mm-hmm. So obviously that takes care of that issue. We do not see gasoline storage in that location anymore. But it is something where we vigorously pursue with any gasoline facility, whether it's a gas station on a street corner or whether it's a gasoline storage facility that stores hundreds of thousands of gallons. We make sure that they have proper storage precautions and that they test their tanks and their piping to ensure that they don't have leaks, because we are very concerned about gasoline getting out and migrating into sewers and subsurface structures for that very reason.
Okay, thank you.
Is this system a state-of-the-art system? And is it, and everyone said, oh yes, this is the best system. I want to know now, is this still the state-of-the-art system, or is there a better system that would be superior to the system you're using that could take the product out in a faster time period?
Yeah, from my viewpoint, and Mike, if you want to stand up too, it's definitely a state-of-the-art system that we have out there. 24 hours a day. We put in some iron removal equipment in there to get rid of the staining color that was being discharged into Newtown Creek. All bells and whistles. You won't find anything like our system out there in the U.S. It's definitely state-of-the-art system.
And you would definitely checking around to make sure there isn't something like
Roux Associates. Roux Associates is a nationwide company, and they're tasked with coming up with improvements and optimizations, and that's my team.
Right now, the best system for removing liquid from subsurface is by actually pumping it and pulling it out. So as far as expedient and good systems, that's the best type of system you can have.
Okay. Just to fully answer the question, it is a good system. It's a very good system. It's considered a very aggressive system for floating product. But what I need to point out is as we go on with the recovery of the oil, it's going to get more difficult to recover out of the ground. Right now, it's basically shooting fish in a barrel. It's fairly easy to recover, but as we continue to pull the oil through the soil and the groundwater and we start to clean it up, it's going to be harder to get that residual product out. So as that goes on, we're going to be working in cooperation with Mobil to come up with a more aggressive technique to get that remainder or that residual oil out of the ground, and that will need some additional techniques that Mobil can apply to pull that last amount out as best they can. So right now, this system is working well, and it's pulling the oil out. It's a liquid product recovery system. It's doing a good job. We've been working on it several years to tweak it and get it up to its optimum, and these gentlemen have done a fine job doing that. But what I'm saying to you is as it becomes more difficult to recover that oil out of the ground, we will have to seek other measures to try to tweak some of that oil out.